Ladies and gentlemen, hit subscribe to this channel right now. This is absolutely huge, just as important as yesterday's immunity victory by former President and future President Donald Trump. Hit subscribe in a couple of seconds. You will hear multi-millionaire real estate expert Kevin O'Leary. You will hear constitutional scholar Jonathan Turley. You will hear the beautiful and talented and extremely intelligent lawyer of President Trump's, Alina Habba. You'll hear from President Trump himself. I'm going to explain to you in about 30 to 40 seconds, and hit subscribe and share this everywhere. This is a huge, huge, monumental victory that nobody is talking about. In 30 to 40 seconds, I'll tell you exactly why this is almost just as huge as yesterday's enormous victory. Number one, Trump will never go bankrupt in the state of New York, which is exactly what the DA and Democrats in Tammany Hall wanted. It was purely political. They have failed. The appeals court judge allowed Trump to seek loans in New York. The same New York and the same New York banks that he allegedly defrauded, which is absurd because the same banks that New York is trying to protect from Trump are going to be the same banks that loan him $400+ million. Again, he's going to not have to even feel the $450-500 million. It's not going to be an issue for Trump at all. It's not going to be an issue at all. He's going to be able to get that money loaned to him, meaning that he has won the fraud trial. The entire point of the trial, and this is very important, was to bankrupt Trump, to seize his properties, to make sure he couldn't pay his legal fees. That was what this is all about. It has nothing to do with protecting New York banks or businesses, because Deutsche Bank and everyone else wants to do business with Trump. They want to make money with Trump. He now can get a loan for the $500 million or whatever the amount is, $450 million. He doesn't have to go into his cash reserves. This is absolutely enormous. He will never not only step foot in prison or jail, because all of these absurd allegations are completely partisan. If Democrats were experiencing what Trump was experiencing while he was in the presidency, they would say he was a despot, authoritarian, totalitarian. He's going after his direct political rivals. When they do it to him, it's about the rule of law. So he is able to obtain loans. You will hear about that in a second from Jonathan Turley. But the judge he overruled the prior judge's decision. Trump is able to seek as many loans as he wants from New York banks. End of story. You lost. You lost. Wonderful, highly educated, morally superior liberal Democrats in New York who wanted to bankrupt Trump. He will never be bankrupted in New York or anywhere else, but especially in New York, because let's say, for example, and hit subscribe if you're new to this channel, and you'll be hearing from Trump and a whole bunch of other people in a second. Let's say, for example, this is why this is so amazing, so huge, so wonderful for democracy and for Trump, okay? Because the despots and totalitarians lost yet again. Let's say, for example, they want $600 million or $700 million from Trump. Let's say he doesn't have that cash. Let's say he doesn't have the cash that Democratic Party prosecutors have in certain states, which, by the way, the Georgia case is completely dismantled, as is the D.C. case because of the immunity decision. He'll do away with the special counsel once he becomes president in November, and they know that. He's not going to step even 1 second in prison or jail ever. But the big deal is, let's say, for example, they said, well, you know what? We're gonna make you pay $700 million. Or let's say they add 200 or 300 million to the defamation case. Let's say they say, oh, you know what? You owe $1 billion in fines and penalties for defamation and for fraud and for just existing and being Trump. Tomorrow, he gets $1 billion in loans that he could pay off in, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, 10 years, 20 years. And he makes money like just jumping out of bed, the man makes money. So there's a $10 billion merger from Truth Social, for example. 10 billion, he has 79 million shares of Truth Social. Something like 79 to 80 million shares. That alone, he'd be able to pay for any judgment in New York. But now he can get loans from banks. He will never be bankrupted. He will never be put in a position where he has to relinquish or they seize his properties and his real estate. That's exactly what they wanted. The Democrats in New York, like the despots and totalitarians and authoritarians they claim Trump represents, went after their direct political opponent when there was nobody who lost money in banks or real estate. They wanted to bankrupt him. They wanted to, for a cheap public relations victory, say that they were going to take his properties. And now they can't do that because he can get a loan from any New York bank that worships Trump, that loves Trump. New York banks love Trump. They don't. You think that any of these Democrats could get a loan for a 500 million from these banks? How about never in a million years? But Trump, just because of the brand, because he is a former and future president, my God, these New York banks everywhere, including New York, are begging to do business with Trump. So hit subscribe to this channel, ladies and gentlemen. This is so huge. This was in the New York, Washington Post a couple of hours ago. You're going to hear from Jonathan Turley right now, ladies and gentlemen. Hit subscribe.
Is so enormous that it is exorbitant and punitive, were their words. What do you think about this decision?
Well, it does give him a little breathing room. It still leaves him with a rather onerous burden. But the decision of the lower court, in my view, was unfair. You know, the judge imposed an unprecedented penalty under this law for this type of conduct. In fact, none of us have seen this law applied in this way. And by doing so, he not only hit Trump with this massive award, but required Trump to put the money up front under a separate rule, which requires you to deposit money or to get a bond. And then Trump was hit with a 30-day deadline to do so. And then on top of that, he was unable to do business with some of the New York banks. Most of us felt that that was really beyond the pale. I mean, at some point, it becomes confiscatory just in order to bring an appeal. And, you know, the example is that if you're contesting an order taking your home, you shouldn't have to sell your home to appeal that order. But people like Attorney General James were talking about precisely that. She was actually naming properties that she might seize or he might sell just to get the Court of Appeals to look at this opinion. So it is a mixed victory for Trump, but it does give him some more options he didn't have before.
Yes.
In addition to getting loans, okay? So he has to pay the money. Who cares? That's not a big issue. That's not a problem at all. He has to pay the money. That's not an issue. The issue is about him getting bankrupted. He's now not ever going to get bankrupted in New York. Also, Donald Trump Jr., Eric Trump, they can serve on the board or they can run Trump's companies. That's huge also. So the initial judgment, and hit subscribe to this channel right now, was not only egregious, it was malicious. And what the initial judgment stated, and this is why this is so amazing, is that Trump could not do business in New York for 3 years, meaning he couldn't seek loans in New York. He couldn't run his businesses with his family. That's been thrown out of the window. Who cares if he lost the appeal initially on the dollar amount? Because there's another court of appeals that could lower the dollar amount, but what does it matter? He doesn't care. The whole point is that he has access to funds within the state. Within the state of New York, the largest financial center in the world, he now has access to any amount of loans he wants. The whole point, ladies and gentlemen, was to make certain that Trump could not pay his legal fees, that Trump could not run his businesses, that his real estate empire would crumble, or his resorts, or his casinos. And so everything from Atlantic City to what he owns in Manhattan to around New York, he has the ability to run these businesses. He has the ability to go to banks in the state and ask for $500, $600, $700 million, whatever, and they'll gladly give it to him. That's huge. That is enormous. And hit subscribe to this channel if you haven't heard this today, because a lot of people are focusing on the dollar amount because they don't realize. See, media focuses on the dollar amount because they think that Trump would be as petrified as they would be if they had to pay $500 million. He doesn't care, though. It doesn't even bother him at all, as long as he has access to loans. And that's just in life in general. That's why you want your credit to be good or acceptable enough to acquire loans. The problem now is we have record highs in credit card debt, and that affects one's credit. And that's one of the reasons Biden's economy, Bidenomics, absolutely is terrible and stinks. Because consumer spending has been fueled and funded by credit card debt. Credit card debt. So it's about the credit card debt. That's what hurts your credit. And so with Trump, he's able now to acquire loans. Let's go ahead and continue with President Trump right.
Well, thank you very much. It's a very sad day for, in my opinion, the country.
So this is when the judgment first came down on him. This is before the appeal, where now he doesn't even care anymore. But I want to give you some context here as to why this is so huge and amazing.
A New York State judge just ruled that he's crooked as you can get. And a lot of people expected something like this, but not for the amount. But this is a very dishonest man. This is a man that's been overturned already on this case 4 times. But a crooked New York State judge just ruled that I have to pay a fine of $355 million for having built a perfect company. Great cash, great buildings, great everything. It affects New York. It's mostly talking about New York, where we have a totally corrupt attorney general. She campaigned on the fact that I will get Trump, I will get Trump. Everybody's seen it. Letitia James, they've all seen it. Well, we'll be appealing, but more important than that, this is Russia, this is China, this is the same game. All comes out of the DOJ, it all comes out of Biden. It's a witch hunt against his political opponent, the likes of which our country has never seen before. You see it in third world countries, banana republics, but you don't see it here. So I just want to say this. You build a great company. There was no fraud. The banks all got their money, 100%. They love Trump. They testified that Trump is great customer, one of our best customers. They testified beautifully. And the judge knows that. He's just a corrupt person. And we knew that from the beginning. We knew it right from the beginning because he wouldn't give it to the commercial division. This judge thought Mar-a-Lago is worth $18 million and it's worth anywhere from 50 to 100 times that amount. So we realized that. He ruled against me before he even got the case. He ruled against me, said I was guilty. He didn't know what I was guilty of before he even got the case. And Letitia James, that's another case altogether. She's a horribly corrupt attorney general, and it's all having to do with election interference. There were no victims because the banks made a lot of money. They made $100 million. And by the way, I paid approximately $300 million in taxes as the migrants come in and they take over New York. I paid over this period of years over $300 million in taxes, and they want me out. Oh, let's see if we can get them out. These are radical left Democrats. They're lunatics, and it's election interfering. So I just want to thank you for being here. We'll appeal. We'll be successful, I think, because, frankly, if we're not successful, New York State is gone. People are moving out of New York State, and because of this, they're going to move out at a much faster rate. They used a statute. It's a consumer fraud statute that's never been used for a thing like this before. They used it on me because I'm running for president. I'm beating Biden by a lot. We're beating not only the Republicans, we're beating Biden by a lot. The poll came out today, we're up 20 points on Biden. If I weren't running, none of this stuff would have ever happened. None of these lawsuits would have ever happened. Nothing would. I would have had a nice life. But I enjoy this life for a different reason. We're going to make America great again. These are corrupt people. These are people that shouldn't be allowed to do the things they do. And they're using this as weaponization against a political opponent who's up a lot in the polls and always will be, because I'm competing with a man who can't put two sentences together, who doesn't know what he's doing. And we're heading into a third world war because of this guy. We have to win this election. They're doing everything possible to step in our way, but we're not going to stand for it. So thank you very much. We will get back to work. It's a ridiculous award. Listen, a fine of $355 million for doing a perfect job, for having paid back a loan with no defaults, with no problems. The banks were totally, at the trial, they testified. We had an expert witness from the Stern School at NYU that made a statement. And I was very honored by his statement. He's one of the most respected people anywhere in the country for doing this kind of thing, expert wisdom. He said, this is one of the greatest financial statements I have ever witnessed before. And he talked about even the detail. So my numbers actually were extremely conservative. They saw this, so what the judge did is he brought down certain values like Mar-a-Lago, made it ridiculous. But the expert, after having all of this, testified it's one of the best financial statements he's ever seen. And I was honored by that. But I also knew we have a corrupt judge. He's not a respected man. And again, I said before, he's been overturned on this case by the appellate division 4 times already. It's a record. Nobody's ever been overturned on one case 4 times. And I think very importantly, and I think ultimately the most important, we've employed tens of thousands of people in New York, and we pay taxes like few other people have ever paid in New York, and they don't care about that. It's a state that's going bust. It's a state that's going bust because everybody's leaving, and it's all headed up by Biden, who's destroying our country.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me know. There's sometimes there have been some audio issues, so let me know if there's an audio issue right away. J-Spot, hello. Nicholas, thank you so very, very much, as always. Nicholas and Paul and everyone here, thank you. So let's recap. He can now get as many loans as he wants. This is an absolute monumental victory for Trump. This is a devastating defeat for Democrats that wanted to bankrupt him. Hit subscribe if you're new to this channel, to my super chat. Thank you. So he's able to, as you can read from the Washington Post article, okay, democracy entails that you don't go after your direct political rivals, which is what they accuse Trump of doing because of the mere question. Trump asks a tiny question of another leader. Hey, do you think maybe Biden's corrupt because him and Hunter had business in your country? Oh my God, what was the big deal with that? Then they said, oh, he's going after his direct, he's trying to interfere. And meanwhile, you have 91 criminal charges that won't even touch Trump. 91 criminal charges that Trump is completely dismantling one by one. Now, The hush money payment, that'll be interesting. He could possibly get convicted, but nobody will care as poll numbers will go up. The FEC fined Clinton and the DNC. So the FEC fined Clinton and the DNC for the Steele dossier. They didn't fine Trump. So they did not fine Trump. They fined Clinton and the DNC for purchasing the Steele dossier with donations. Remember when Debbie Wasserman Schultz resigned after the DNC emails showed that Bernie Sanders was completely railroaded by his own political party? Don't think Bernie Sanders is an independent. He is a Democrat, okay? He's the far left wing of the Democratic Party. I used to be the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, according to the Huffington Post. I was the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters, according to the Washington Post. I wanted record low poverty, which is what we had under Trump. Record highs in household median income. So, yeah, and I want Americans never again to be sent to endless counterinsurgency conflicts, which is Trump brought Americans home with the Doha Agreement that Biden botched. It was a May 1st, 2021 withdrawal. May 1st, not a haphazard summer withdrawal. Okay, that cost American lives and the lives of Afghans also. Those American soldiers should be alive today. That's 100% Biden's fault. Okay, and there were Afghans that died also. That's 100% Biden's fault. Okay, there were stipulations to withdrawing that this administration, Democrats, ignored completely. There were stipulations. There were things that you had to abide by that they completely ignored. And that's why it was so chaotic. Just like what's taking place now in the southern geographic region of our country. More human beings are losing their lives trying to enter this country. More families are being separated. More people are losing their lives. Not one tear shed from AOC or liberal Democrats. Or progressives, for that matter, or anyone on the left. They just don't care. People just don't care. Okay? The outrage and indignation felt by the morally superior liberal Democrats, it emanates from media coverage. It doesn't really emanate from, what's taking place. Okay, their idea, the morality of liberal Democrats stems from the belief or the image that they're actually moral, not actually doing the right thing or the tough thing or going up against the mainstream or groupthink. Okay. So, they say that Trump supporters are cult members. The opposite is true. Democrats are actually cult members because it's most liberal or a lot of liberal Democrats disown friends and family and purge themselves of anyone who supports Trump. If you happen to be a liberal Democrat and you just stumble upon this, you might not like, my viewpoint. Have you purged your entire life of anyone who supports Trump? Very likely. Okay, not conservatives and Republicans or people who like Trump. They don't care. Why would I? If I like Trump, why would I care if you're voting for Biden to destroy the country? That's your business. I don't care. But it's Democrats who view this to be a religion. That's why you have many atheists. I love Christopher Hitchens. It's fine. You know what? I believe in God, but if you think that atheism makes more sense, fine. But if you're an atheist and you're Democrat and your religion is MSNBC and CNN, you've replaced faith in God, which makes a lot more sense than faith in intelligence agencies and media and this mania and hysteria regarding Trump. Disliking Trump and trying to harm him is not moral. It's immoral. Okay? And so, anyway, hit subscribe. Let's continue. Let's listen to Kevin O'Leary talk about the initial judgment. And by the way, like I said, the loans that Trump is able to obtain, that's absolutely huge now. It's game-changing. It changes the game, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, they cannot mess with Trump ever again in New York. They cannot mess with Trump ever again in New York.
Now is O'Leary Ventures Chairman Kevin O'Leary. Kevin, your reaction, how do you think Trump's fine impacts investors and businesses in New York?
Well, developers are all asking the same question. Is this fine, penalty, and interest commensurate with the act, the crime, so to speak? Because, as remember, there's no money's lost. There's no victim here. So essentially just under $500 million fine for a situation where no monies were lost and the harmed parties, supposedly the banks, were fully paid back. So we're just wondering, does this make sense? And asking ourselves, how long will it take to the appellate court to bring it down to what a reasonable number might be? I have no idea what that is. But in the meantime, while this is going through the system, none of us want to put new money to work in New York until it gets resolved, because it's not just the governor's words about behavior, which none of us understand. I don't understand what you said there. It wasn't comforting to me. I'm just one investor. But I'm very concerned about the next step of seizing assets. Capital comes to America because of the stability of the justice system. And this is not stable in terms of many people's eyes, domestically and internationally. Seizing assets is what happens in Venezuela. It doesn't happen in New York. And so this is a little scary.
And of course, we heard Letitia James say it. She said it very clearly. If Trump can't come up with the $400 million, we'll just start seizing his assets. So you.
Now they cannot do that. They cannot do that now. They cannot take any of Trump's properties. This is absolutely huge. This is what everyone should be talking about. And hit subscribe if you're new to this channel. Hit subscribe, because I don't think people realize how enormous this is. They will never be able to bankrupt Trump. He's able to obtain any loans he wants. By the way, I will be back tonight at around 10 p.m. Eastern. I for sure will be back tonight. I had an amazing live stream yesterday. It's like over 300,000 views right now. So so channel's moving. We're at 220. We'll get to 300,000 subscribers before November, because of you, because of my viewers in Australia, in the UK, in Canada, in New Zealand, in Sweden, in Nepal, in the Philippines. Thank you. And obviously in the United States of America, my home. So this is absolutely huge. And Maria Bartiromo talked about Letitia James and Democrats in New York seizing Trump's properties. They cannot do that anymore. They cannot take his properties. They cannot prevent him from doing business. The headlines were completely deceiving. Yesterday, they should have just simply said it was a huge victory for Trump. In Belgium, hello, in Belgium. It was a huge, Susan, hello. It was a huge, Dragon, hello. It was a huge victory for Trump, because they cannot bankrupt him anymore. And his Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr., they can still work at the businesses, and Trump can do business in New York still. The only thing he lost was the fine. He doesn't care about the fine. The fine wasn't the issue. It was the fact that he couldn't get loans. Let's continue. Now he can get loans, so he doesn't care at all. New York banks are going to be begging to loan Trump money, just like they were begging to loan him money before, which shows you how absurd the fraud trial was. Hit subscribe if you're new.
You just heard Kathy Hochul say, look, this is an extenuating situation. This is an extraordinary situation just based on Trump. But look, let's be clear. They hate Trump. They can't stand the guy. It's a deep hatred for Trump. They want to stop him from becoming president again, and they're going to stoop to whatever levels it takes. That's basically what she just told you. So I don't know if you're ever going to get in their ire. I mean, if you become the person that they hate, maybe you're next. I don't know.
Well, that's why I'm worried about it. You know, New York is one of the top states for hydropower and inexpensive electricity, which right now is the hottest area of commercial real estate developed, AI data centers. There are $3.6 billion projects, create 400 jobs, 5 more jobs after they're stabilized. So it's a very desirable investment. In aggregate, $3.6 billion in 80 acres. So you'd think New York would want one of those. But I don't know an AI developer that, or a data center developer that's looking at New York right now. That would be upstate New York near Niagara Falls. The states that are being considered now as this, so it's a quiet exodus of capital leaving New York. It's going to places like North Dakota, Oklahoma, West Virginia, Montana, Tennessee. They have the same power. And if you look at the governors there, because when you're spending that much money, Maria, you're in partnership with the government, because this data center is for 22 years. We build it over 2 years. We create 400 jobs. We need a governor like Kevin Stitt or Doug Burgum or Governor Justice. They're business people. They don't sequester assets. They don't seize them, and they provide permits. It's a different business environment. So New York is no longer on that list. And I'm sad about this because my kids live in New York. I want New York to be successful. I'm sick about this.
Yeah, well, a lot of people want New York to be successful.
So, you know how there was this thing that Democrats talked about, owning the liberals? Okay, well, to own Trump, to disparage Trump, they're now hurting New York's economy. Why would you do business in New York or any state run by Democrats if you know that your First Amendment rights are going to be linked to investigation and prosecution? If you support Trump, or you are, a billionaire or a multimillionaire in New York, and you have real estate, or you have businesses throughout the state, or corporations, and you then donate to Trump's campaign, okay, you got to be thinking that you're probably going to be investigated. So why would you do that? And then when New York goes after Trump, other people say, I'm not going to do business there, which is what Kevin O'Leary was talking about, which then hurts the people of New York. What is the point? He's going to win the November anyway. He's going to become president. I think that very likely they'll replace Biden with Hillary Clinton. I don't think anyone else can replace Biden. We'll have a recession, or at least a stock market crash, unfortunately, before November. And you have, there's nothing stopping Trump. They tried desperately to stop Trump, to bankrupt him, to imprison him. It ain't working. And the entire world knows now that New York Democrats not only campaigned on going after Trump, like despots and authoritarians and totalitarians who go after the direct political rivals. Again, Trump was impeached on a phone call. Meanwhile, Democrats have indicted Trump under 91 criminal charges, and that's not interference. That's not going after your direct political rival, according to Democrats. Okay? And so they've tried desperately to get Trump. Everyone knows that the DA and others campaigned in New York on bankrupting and imprisoning Trump. They literally campaigned on it. And when Trump said he wanted to lock up certain people, his rival had private servers with top secret intelligence on them. You cannot have servers in the United States government, in any agency, and be allowed to transfer any classified data. It's not only illegal, it's impossible from a cybersecurity perspective. So when Trump said, yeah, that person Clinton should be indicted, that's a crime. And even the Honorable James Comey said it was, but he said no reasonable prosecutor would indict. Just like the Hur report said that the special counsel said that they were not going to indict Biden because he's old and he doesn't have the memory or cognitive skills to stand trial. So, but he did commit crimes in terms of classified data. So the entire world knows there's a double standard. I mean, the entire world knows there's this huge, immense double standard. Hit subscribe right now. To the truckers watching and listening, to the truckers listening to this channel, God bless you. Thank you for all that you do for this country. Drive safe. God bless you. And thank you so much for bringing our food, produce, goods, everything to different cities throughout this country. Thank you so very, very much. God bless the truckers watching. Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and listen to the beautiful and talented and very intelligent Alina Habba.
Good evening. So let's talk about one thing that the press hasn't reported. We just listened to testimony from a man who has such distinct recognitions as an accounting expert that even Letitia James's team and the OAG's team used him themselves as an accounting expert. Professor Bartov was the New York Attorney General's expert in the Exxon case. Let's start there. But today, when he was on the other side, they spent the entire day objecting because he was giving testimony that didn't suit their claims. His testimony included that there was absolutely, and I quote, no fraud, that the statement of financial condition for President Trump was understated, that there was no evidence of concealment, and that, in fact, President Trump's statements of financial condition had something that most other statements of financial condition don't have. 18 pages of descriptions and details about his properties, about his trophy assets, things that most people don't need to do and wouldn't do. The reason, because he had nothing to hide and he didn't conceal anything. This is not a publicly traded company. This is a private company. And the Attorney General is now sticking her nose into private companies. This is a very scary moment for our country. We have to have boundaries. We have to have laws. They were objecting every 5 minutes, and I really give credit today to the press that was in there. I did look at some of the feed, and it was accurate. There was absolutely no fraud. The statements were undervalued, and President Trump and the Trump Organization provided Deutsche Bank with everything they needed. Last week, we heard banks make clear that they thought they were a trophy client. They were the big whale that they wanted to get, and they valued their relationship. They said that holds true today. I don't know why we're here. I've said it before, and I say it again. Again, this case has absolutely no merit, and you don't have to believe me. A man that gives the Nobel Executive Committee recommendations on accounting and who should be recognized in accounting, that man that just sat in there for the entire day, made it very clear and had words with the AG and said, this, you should be ashamed of yourself. And I say it too. You should be ashamed of yourself. Thank you. I'm not going to speak about privileged information. At this time, the president is looking forward to taking the stand and once again making clear that he cooperated, he performed on his loans, they were paid ahead of schedule in some instances, always on time, and he was never in default. But somehow Ms. James needs to fulfill her political promise, so we're here, and he'll be addressing all of that on Monday. Don't forget, though, he's going on Monday with the judge's gag order still in place, so he can't speak about certain things. He has to be so careful. That is so unconstitutional, in my opinion. We have First Amendment rights. We have rights as attorneys, Sixth Amendment rights, and those are all being violated. And he still wants to take the stand, even though my advice is at this point, you should never take the stand with a gag order. But he is so firmly against what is happening in this court and so firmly for the old America that we know, not this America.
How many people are going to take the stand and testify when the cards are stacked against them? Only Trump would do that. Only Trump would do that. Earl, thank you. Only Trump would go ahead and testify knowing very well that the fix is already in. And again, if God forbid you or anyone you know is hurting financially, okay? Or let's say you're not hurting financially. Let's say you just don't have the money at the moment to buy a home. So you get a mortgage, which are double right now. The mortgage rates are double under Biden. If you want to buy a home now, the mortgage rates are 7 to 8%. They were 3% when Trump was in office. So Biden's economy is terrible. But let's say, for example, Trump gets a $600 or $700 million judgment against him in New York. Let's say you want to buy a home in Biden's America with double the interest rates for home mortgages. Let's say you don't have enough for that month, which is everyone has gone through this or going through this. Let's say you don't have enough that month. You got to put some grocery bills on the credit card. Okay, you don't have enough money right now to pay your groceries or to pay some clothing for the kids or whatever. Okay, you need credit. You need a line of credit through a credit card, through a bank to get your home. Okay, or if you're Trump, now they can give you a $600-700 billion judgment. It don't matter. He has loans now. He's got loans in New. He can get loans and do business with New York banks. He can get loans and do business with New York banks. This is absolutely huge. This is absolutely huge, ladies and gentlemen. This is a nightmare, a political nightmare for Democrats because they wanted to bankrupt Trump. They wanted to make sure that he couldn't pay the fine. They wanted to take his properties, and the entire world knows they're going after their direct political rival. But now he can go ahead and pay off any fine. He can get loans. And that politically, that is the end of, it's a game over for New York Democrats going after Trump. They wanted to bankrupt him with defamation and with fraud and with every judgment that was beyond, $100, $400 million, $450 million, $500 million. Well, now he can get loans. Now he can go and get loans just off of the shares that he has from Truth Social or from any of his properties in New York or throughout the world. Or maybe he'll start a sneaker company. Maybe he'll start a shoe company. Okay? Millions of people, hundreds of millions of people will wear Trump shoes. Not Democrats, but throughout the world and in the U.S. Okay, you have red states where people would just love to, populous, big, huge, conservative run states. You don't think people in Arizona or Georgia or Texas or Mississippi or Alabama or Florida or parts of New York, parts of California, or throughout the country, Montana, Idaho, you don't think people would buy shoes, like awesome shoes that are affordable? That's not $400, but $80, sneakers, basketball or tennis shoes. You get one NBA player wearing Trump shoes, the entire planet's going to wear Trump shoes. He can start a shoe company tomorrow, and Democrats will be fuming. I started a shoe company, no! Everything Trump touches turns to gold. The opposite of what Democrats say. They'll point out little business failures, never having run a business themselves, never having tried to start a business or employ people or contribute to the economy overall. Democratic politicians get their money from taxes. They don't get their money from starting businesses like Trump. So if you're a bureaucrat and you get your money from taxes, what do you care if you hurt the economy going after Trump? You don't care. What do you care? You don't care at all. Let's go ahead and listen to more of Alina Habba.
America, that he will take that stand on Monday.
What can we expect on Monday?
The same as we've heard. The same as we've heard from experts. He will clarify it. He will open himself up to whatever they want because he's not afraid. People that are afraid cower. President Trump doesn't cower. We'll be back on Monday with that, and tomorrow we'll hear more testimony from this incredibly intelligent man.
What was your client's reaction to the testimony today?
I think he made it clear. It's more frustration that we have wasted time, that they are doing election interference. This is a tactic that we've seen time and time again. This is not the first or last of it, and we're going to have to deal with it in all the other trials. But I really hope this is a lesson to those other AGs and DAs out there trying to make a name for themselves off of President Trump's back. If you're going to do it with garbage claims, it's going to come out because there are experts willing to put their heads out, willing to put their necks out, and willing to say that this is garbage. And we heard that today, the entire day, and we will hear that well into tomorrow. I don't speak about politics. I'm a lawyer.
But no, with all the cases that are stacked against him,
Yeah.
does he still feel confident about Monday, the outcome of this case and everything that is?
The outcome of this case was determined before we walked into court. Let's be clear. We're not walking into this court every day expecting that this judge is going to let us off. We already see what's happened in this court. This judge made his determination on summary judgment before we even walked in, before an expert took the stand. So let's not get it twisted. I'm not here fighting for that. I'm here fighting for America with him so that we can stop this. You know, that's the truth of it. And it's a very sad state of affairs. Today and many days we've asked for a directed verdict because there is no case. This case is garbage.
So, you look, ladies and gentlemen, how many people would be able to withstand the entire American political establishment against them? Let's say you're a morally superior, highly educated, liberal Democrat or progressive. Okay. We had record low poverty with Trump. What is there not to like? My God. Go to 2019 before Democrats shut down economic activity because of bureaucrats that were wrong and experts that agreed with them. Meanwhile, experts who disagree with them are controversial. How many people could withstand all of media? Only Trump. Intelligence agencies, only Trump. An entire state going after him, numerous states going after him, only Trump. A very likely conviction in New York. He'll possibly get convicted in New York. He'll still be up in the polls. Everything Democrats do to try to torment Trump, the opposite takes place. Now you have Mika and Joe at MSNBC claiming that Trump has cognitive issues and he can't form a sentence, which is so hilarious because they try to actually find a clip. There is no clip. There is no video of Trump stumbling over words or barely walking and stumbling and bumbling about. That's our current president, mashed potato brains, who was making up words 4 years ago and then became the most popular candidate of all time. It was very fair. The investigations into the alleged claims from Trump were very thorough, all 3 or 4 days of them. And when county officials were asked by journalists who were liberal Democrats and they debunked and refuted Trump, oh, yes, everything was perfectly fair and just. Okay. Meanwhile, now they're overtly talking about replacing Biden, which is what I've been saying on this channel for years now. Hit subscribe if you're new to this channel, ladies and gentlemen. We're almost at 220,000 subscribers. We're going to get to 300,000 subscribers before November, and it's because of you. And we're finally moving. And I didn't expect all of these victories for Trump so quickly. I mean, I knew that they would happen, and I've been telling everybody, and just wait until you get the unanimous Supreme Court decision overturning the Colorado ban. You had the immunity decision yesterday. We had 300,000 views on that live stream. You have today, where nobody's talking about this, I'm like the only person, I think, in all of YouTube really focusing on this, like a laser, because the ability to get loans is so huge, not just for Trump, for the average American, for anyone around the world. And so they can't touch him now. They cannot touch him now. He'll never be bankrupted in New York, which is what they wanted to do. So now he can go ahead and pay any fine. Let's say New York fines him $1 billion tomorrow. He can get loans from New York banks. This is huge. This is the worst thing to happen to Democrats in New York who wanted to bankrupt Trump. And then you're going to get the Supreme Court victory, where in a unanimous decision, they overturn the absurd Colorado ban. So I mean, it's going to be win after win after win. Let's listen to a little more of Alina Habba, and we'll call it a day. We'll be here this evening, so be here tonight at around 10 p.m. Eastern for the second live stream of the day. I'll be doing 2 live streams every single day, at least one, but definitely I'll try for almost every day 2 live streams.
Let's dip in here and listen. More honest, coming from the judge who has already predetermined that my client committed fraud before we even walked into this courtroom. I'm not here to hear what he has to say. Then why exactly am I being paid as an attorney, and why exactly are taxpayer dollars being used in this courtroom? The answer is very clear. Because Miss James wants to stand right here like she did this morning and call my client a liar, call the company fraudulent, and make a name for herself. She said this morning that the numbers don't lie and they won't lie in this case. Well, Miss James, I have a message for you. The numbers didn't lie when you ran for governor, and that's why you dropped out. And the numbers don't lie when President Trump runs for office in 2024. And those numbers are loud and clear. This country is falling apart. And if we don't stop corruption in courtrooms where attorneys are gagged, where attorneys are not allowed to say what they need to say to protect their clients' interests, it doesn't matter what your politics are. Everyone has a right in this country to get up and put a defense. I don't care who you are. You have a right to hire a lawyer who can put objections on the record. You have a right to hire a lawyer who can stand up and say something when they see something wrong. But I was told to sit down today. I was yelled at, and I've had a judge who is unhinged slamming a table. Let me be very clear. I don't tolerate that in my life. I'm not going to tolerate it here. And you know what? You shouldn't either. Because not every American citizen gets a camera and a microphone. And what I'm seeing is such a demise of American judicial system and democracy. Miss James came out this morning and said that she knew Mr. Trump, and she always calls him Mr. Trump because it kills her that he was the president. But the 45th president of this country, one of the best presidents we've had, has built a great company. It's worth a ton more than that statement of financial condition. And she doesn't know how to get out of it because her politics won't allow her. She calls him a bully. She says he's going to bring out racial slurs. He's going to say things today and taunt her. Well, Miss James, you taunted him. Before you came into office, before you saw one record, one statement of financial condition, you taunted him. You said his administration was too male and too pale. Those are her words. She said that she and Michael Cohen were going to be his biggest nightmare. Well, I have some news for you, Miss James. Michael Cohen folded, lied, and crumbled. Your star witness, along with all the DAs and corrupt AGs, need to be paying attention to what happens when you let us take the stand. When you let my client speak the truth, and the judge can tell me to sit down, and he can try and shorten my client's testimony, but it is loud and clear.
So they say that Trump lies. Like Democrats say, well, he lies so much. Nobody lies more than Trump. I don't. What did he lie about? I'd like to know what Trump lied about the past 7 years. Did he lie about being an operative of the Kremlin? No, he didn't commit. He didn't work for another country. It was Democrats who lied every single day about evidence linking Trump to the Kremlin. So he didn't lie about that. He told the truth. In fact, nobody's more honest than Trump in modern American political history. He says what he wants to say, and Democrats can't stand it because he takes their sacred cows and crushes them right in front of their eyes. Okay, sometimes he's too honest. So he should be more diplomatic. On Twitter, he said things he shouldn't have said. But other than that, what did he lie about? What, crowd size? Democrats have lied about private servers. They've lied about laptops. They've lied about primaries, DNC primary. They've lied about Trump being an operative of the Kremlin. All they do is lie. That's all they do is lie. And then they say Trump lies, but we care about the truth. Okay? People vote Democrat not because it's the best thing for the country. They vote Democrat because they think it's moral. They think it's the best thing for the planet. It's not necessarily the best thing for the United States of America. Trump has only one focus: the U.S. economy, U.S. foreign policy, making sure that Americans are safe and prosperous. Democrats have a whole lot of other reasons to vote Democrat. Okay, not always having to do with what's great for this country. Okay. And in terms of foreign policy, we were safer under Trump. The world was better off. In terms of economic policy, the working class did better under Trump. If you're a communist or a socialist, the working class objectively did better under Trump. There's no debate. Go look at poverty. Poverty is up. Inflation is up. Interest rates are up under Biden. How on earth was Trump's tenure bad for the working class or for the average person? Or we had less people impoverished with Trump. We have more people impoverished with Biden. So the whole point in voting, like being on the left, is that you care about poor people. Well, there's more poor people now with Biden. Anyway, hit subscribe to this channel, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be back later tonight. This is an absolute amazing victory, a catastrophic nightmare and defeat for Democrats. It really is. It is a catastrophic political defeat. A catastrophic political defeat for Democrats. And he'll never be bankrupted. He will never even spend 1 second in prison. So every pundit, every channel, every writer telling you that Trump's going to go to prison, it will never happen. And everybody's saying that he's going to be bankrupted, it will never happen. Every single thing they try to do against Trump, who is the Obi-Wan Kenobi of politics, Trump is the Obi-Wan Kenobi of politics. And Paul Bartlett and Nicholas Orm, to my viewers in Australia, thank you so much for your support, and around the world. Everything they try to do to Trump, the opposite takes place. I mean, the man is like blessed or something. It's like unbelievable. Hit subscribe to this channel. I'll be back tonight around 10 p.m. Eastern, everybody. God bless you all. Have a great day. Have a wonderful Friday. Thank you. Be here tonight for the second live stream.